Okay, so while we connect this, I'd like to welcome you to our first workshop. We have two parallel workshops, as you will know. Our speaker here, Stavroula Sokoli. Did I pronounce it well? I always call her Rula, so. Well, she is a researcher on visual translation and language learning. Well, she has initiated and coordinated European-funded projects like Levi and ClipFlair, the one that is running at the moment, and also collaborates with academic and research excellence in Greece. She teaches Spanish, speaks perfect Spanish, and perfect English at the Open University, and also she gives subtitling courses at Ávila, and Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona. And she's a subtitler, an interpreter, and a great person. I know her personally, so I hope to enjoy the workshop. I know that it's going to be very interesting because I'm also part of this world of subtitling and language learning, and I really hope to make the most of it.
Hello, everybody. It's a great pleasure for me to be here with you. So today I'm going to present you a ClipFlair project, which stands for Foreign Language Learning through interactive revoicing and captioning of clips. So what's the plan for today? The first part is going to be a brief introduction and some explanation of concepts that you probably need to know, and then we'll have a practical part. So I hope you have, well, I see most of you have laptops. If you don't have one, you can work with the person next to you. And so, since we're going to be here for 2 hours together, let me introduce myself in a different way. I have two passions. One is languages, and the other one is films and documentaries. So these two things naturally led me to become a teacher of languages and a subtitler, translator, all the things that have to do with audiovisuals and languages. So audiovisual translation is one of my main interests, and its application into language learning. And I'd like to know some things about you, if that's possible. So are there any language teachers in this workshop? Language teachers? What languages do you teach? English? Spanish? Italian or something? No. And are there researchers here in audiovisual translation? Okay, and so the rest of you who have not raised your hand, what are you? Why are you here? Or are you professional subtitlers? Or no? What are you, for example? What's your interest in this workshop?
Because, like you, I love languages and I love films.
Okay.
I have done a bit of subtitling, I mean, homemade subtitling. So
okay, so you're a fan. Okay, this is great. I suppose this is one of the things we all have in this room. So let's start by explaining why we started this project, and starting by the needs. We always center ourselves in focus in our learner needs, but we also have needs as teachers. When we go into the language classroom, we need some things, and one of them is new educational tools and ideas. Learners are getting bored very easily, especially students in the classroom, and they need new things to excite them and motivate them. And one of the things that we use in the classroom are films, film scenes, whole films. And this has been possible since the 80s, when films became portable. Before you couldn't do that. You could only bring your students to the cinema. But then with the advent of the VHS, you could bring the VHS into, we're talking about centuries ago. And then in the 90s, you could work with DVDs, and now we have video streaming. It's easier and easier to use. So not using audiovisuals in the classroom is madness, because it's so easy. And we'll see more of the advantages of using it. But what to do with it? I mean, do we just watch the film and then, answer some multiple choice questions? Or we need some active plays. The learner needs to be active. And of course, we also need some authentic tasks to deal with these authentic material. When you understand, when I'm talking about authentic, I'm talking about real world material that has been created for native speakers. By doing real world tasks, we feel that we produce something that has meaning. For example, there are people who do subtitles just for fun, because they like it, and they don't gain anything from it. So why use audiovisuals in the classroom? Apart from the variety and the flexibility they offer, of course they contextualize linguistic terms. We see the language in the dialogues, together with visual material, gesture, with non-verbal material like intonation, pitch. We can also see it within traditions, places, landmarks. All this makes it the experience much richer. And as I said before, clips provide exposure to cultural and non-verbal elements. And when we think about learning a language, the best way is to be in the country. Be with native speakers, listen to the radio, go outside to the supermarket. This is the best way to learn a language, right? But when that's not possible, what's the next best way? Is it reading a book or listening to a tape? Well, the audiovisual mode is closer to the natural, ideal communication. So this is another reason why we would like to work with clips in classroom, and not just film scenes, but documentaries, animation, news, any kind of audiovisual would do. Let's see here the ClipFlair main idea in a short video you might have watched already on the internet. So, let's have a look at the reasons why we started this project. As we said before, learning by doing is always more effective than learning by watching or reading or listening, for that matter. It is an active approach, a hands-on experience which increases motivation. And most of all, for me, the most important thing is that you have a tangible and shareable product. A subtitled clip, a revoiced clip, something you can share with your friends. It's not just filling in the gaps, an exercise that then you throw away, or multiple choice questions that are meaningless. You have something, you can do things with it. So let's see the basics of ClipFlair. Okay, So I think that the best way to see the basics is actually a live presentation. Of course, I could show you the video, but since we have the we have an nice internet connection here. What you can do is go to the ClipFlair gallery, and you can do it yourselves if you like. So,
okay if we ask questions in between?
I think I like it. I like it a lot. I like a lively presentation. So, yes, please, do ask.
Well, just to help me understand, is the software basically designed for students or for teachers?
Aha, very good questions. We have three main target audiences. The first one is the learner, of course. The second one is the teacher. And the third one is the activity author. These roles can be overlapping, and I'll explain why. The platform gives the author all the tools that they need to create an activity. We will see them right away. So the first thing that you need are the tools. Then you can see that the teacher and the learner can use it in the classroom because we have ready-made activities. We have a very large group of people who are authors, and they can create activities, and then a teacher who is using one of these ready-made activities will see right away in the gallery. If you go to clipflair.net, you'll see the ClipFlair gallery there. The teacher or even the learner can become authors themselves. If they see an activity they like, they just change the clip, change the instructions, or work a bit with the subtitles, and then this can become a new activity, and they can send it to somebody else to complete it or do something with it. So these are the main three target groups of the project and the platform. So
the video introduction suggests that, doesn't it? That it's the learner. The
focus is the learner, and the video's introduction has a very limited scope. It's a very it's very limited, but you can't present something in 1 minute. The presentation would have been 5 minutes, and we wanted to do something that makes it the scope very clear. That you have a platform where you can subtitle, and when you can dub the voice. We'll see about those terms later on. So if you go to clipflair.net, you'll see the first the start page where the central areas of the platform is the studio, the social network, and the gallery. We'll start from the gallery because that's where we'll find ready-made activities or clips in order to create activities, or images that are already stored there. Let's browse the gallery. We have more than 300 activities now in various languages. It looks daunting.
They need to have
install
Silverlight, and it allows you. The computer allows you, but it may take a while. So while
I present, you install Silverlight. Or is it working? Or how's it going?
It should ask you to download Silverlight when you enter the gallery. So just wait for that, and while we go.
Who can see that already in their laptop?
Silverlight.
No, this what I'm looking at now. The gallery. Not yet. It's installing. It's not installing either?
Downloading.
Downloading.
Complement, yeah.
Okay. All right. So while it's doing that, let's see. Let's browse the gallery. There are, as I said, more than 300 activities here, but you can browse and find the ones that interest you. First of all, if you're a learner, or if you teach, you think of your learners, you start with the language. We have English, Spanish, Romanian, Catalan, Estonian, Chinese, Arabic, Irish, Polish, Italian, Japanese, Basque, Portuguese, Greek, Russian, and Ukrainian. And actually we could have any language, as long as we have authors creating activities for these languages, we can have any language. But we also have one category that's called any language. What does this mean? There are some activities that are suitable for learning any language. As long as you understand the language of instructions, you can use them for any language. Let's see this one, for example. Let's see that together so that we can, so that you can understand what this any language means. So, shall we watch a little bit of this video animation? Just a little bit. Okay, as you can see, this is an animation with no verbal element. There's no language heard. So, it wants to keep on playing. No. So, the only thing you need to understand is the instructions. So if we can, for example, translate these instructions in many languages, then we can adapt the same activity for learners of different languages who speak different languages. But if they can understand English, they can already use, because the instructions here is to create captions using your imagination for this video in the language you're learning. So you could be creating subtitles for Spanish or for Italian, for any language. This is quite an open activity and it's quite creative too, because since you don't have the dialogue to restrict what you're going to write, you can actually write completely different things. You can come up with completely different stories. And actually what we're doing now in a Greek school, collaborating with, what they're going to do is divide students into groups. I'm sorry, I forgot to switch off my mobile phone. Really sorry about that. We're going to divide the students into groups into pairs of groups, and they are going to divide the clip in sections, and the students are going to create captions for their part, and then they're going to put it all together and see what the story looks like. And I think they're going to have quite fun. It's a primary school, so the clip is quite good for them, for their needs. So let's go back to the gallery, because we were looking at the filters here. So depending on the language the instructions are written in, we have another filter for speakers of. It can be for speakers of different languages, and it's not just for the instructions. As we'll see later, you can have different language of departure, source language, target language, etc. We'll see that categorization later on. And of course, the language combination. If we're talking about creating the standard subtitling, which is you have a foreign film and you subtitle in your own language. This is standard subtitling, it's an interlingual combination. And if you have, for example, from your own language, there's a Spanish film and you have to translate in the language you're learning, such as English. This is for advanced users, of course. Then that would be reversed subtitling, again interlingual. But you might have the task to write the dialogues in the same language, from English into English. These are just examples. Or it can be a multilingual activity. This happens when the clip has more than one languages, or if the language of instructions is a different one. If there are more than two languages involved in the activity, then we call it multilingual, and you can use that filter to find them out. The level, of course, I'm sure that you are all you'll know about the Common European Framework of Reference. These are the 6 levels. Since it's a European project, we thought it would be the best thing to do. But if we're thinking about more of a worldwide use, then we might change it or explain them. Like advanced, intermediate, etc. We might put an explanatory word next to it.
Could I have a question there?
Yeah.
How did you go about assigning the levels? What was the procedure?
This is actually the choice of the author. When somebody creates an activity, then he has to think, okay, I'm going to create this activity for my students, and I think that the level necessary for this activity is B1 or B2.
A personal assessment.
It's a personal, all of this is a personal assessment.
Okay.
This is metadata that follows each activity, and it's not assigned centrally. Each author assigns the metadata that they consider, because otherwise it's impossible to know.
No, but I thought perhaps that as a project, that your own content would be, there would be some consensus on the stuff that we produce that we know
Yes.
has been calibrated.
Well, the Common European Framework of Reference, each level has very, very specific requirements. So the authors are project members, and they are aware of these specifications for each level. So that's how it has been fixed. So another interesting thing about this project is that we have specified from and to, because skills are not only necessary to produce something, they are also necessary to understand the prompt, the stimulation. But we will have a look at that later on. Here you have the 4 typical skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking.
Why this skill? Why this see? Because listen, reading, writing, speaking, and see.
This is no
information. I think one no 5 skill at the moment is
mediation.
Is very important, I think.
Which one?
See.
See.
Ver. See, que listen, reading, write, speak, and see.
It's coming. It's coming. Okay.
Or the visual.
We'll talk a lot about about the skills.
Yes.
We'll talk about the skills. So we have the 4 from skills to, for example, what you have to listen to something in order to write something. That's the basic idea. But here are what you found missing, which are the audiovisual skills. Watching, audiovisual listening, audiovisual speaking, audiovisual writing, audiovisual reading, and picture literacy. We'll see that in detail in a moment. And we'll also see something very interesting about our conceptual framework, which is the type of response required by the learner, whether it's to repeat, to react, or to rephrase. Okay, we'll explain that. We also have divided tasks between revoicing and captioning. I didn't talk a lot about these 2 terms. We use them as umbrella terms. Revoicing refers to any kind of adding speech to a clip. It can be dubbing, it can be voiceover, it can be karaoke, free commentary, any kind of adding speech on a clip. And captioning is also an umbrella term that covers subtitling, intertitles, annotations, any kind of adding writing on a clip. What we also call multimodal writing, speech bubbles, etc. Before we talked about our target groups: learners, teachers, authors. But learners are divided into different types of learners. We see our learners as either guided by a teacher, but that's the middle, in a continuum of possibilities, that's somewhere in the middle. We have a completely teacher-dependent student on one side, and a completely independent student on the other side. What's a teacher-dependent student? It's a student that goes to language courses, and does everything that the teacher said. A little more. Maybe he does some own searching, etc. But that's later. The more autonomous the learner becomes, then he becomes a guided student, which means that he follows a course, maybe a teacher gives him some feedback, etc. But the learner is more autonomous, a bit more independent. We also cater for those kinds of students. And of course, totally independent learners who don't follow a course or a course book, and they just look here and there and find interesting material to work with. So ClipFlair can either be used in class with a teacher, it can be used at home with the guidance of a teacher, or it can be used completely independently. A learner might find it on the internet, browse the galleries, filter through with the activities with the language that they want to learn, and just work with those that seem more fun. Now, as for the feedback mode, different activities have different kinds of feedback. There's no automatic feedback with ClipFlair. We either use it in class, or there's face-to-face feedback, or if it's distance courses, we use email. There might be some sample answers, click here to see the sample answers, or an answer key, or we may ask them to do self-assessment. as for the age group, it's quite important because, as we saw, the previous activity with Big Bag Bunny is more appropriate for children, even though, I mean, people like myself who like animations, I would definitely be motivated by this. But we do have filters according to ages. Keywords, authors, license, all our activities are under a Creative Commons license. That means that everybody can use it as long as they attribute the author. So feel free to, and also you can also create derivatives, different activities with different instructions, mix and match and kind of thing. And then we have the last updated. If you want to look at more recent activities, you can use this filter. Now let's go back to the activity we were watching. Did you have any luck? Did you arrive here in the gallery? Sorry? It's a tablet. No, tablet. You can't use it with a tablet.
You can share.
I'm sorry about that, but you can work together. It's a practical workshop, so if you don't work with someone, then you might get bored. So, what can you do with with an activity? What you can see here is the clip, the instructions, and this, we call them components. This component has both gives you the possibility to add subtitles and also to record your voice. You might want an activity to be only revoicing. So you would hide the subtitles and keep only the audio part. I'll show you how this works. And so apart from the text component and the captions component, there is also a news component here. It's, do you know RSS? It's an RSS feed from our blog. So anything that is posted on the ClipFlair blog appears here. So if you go into an activity, you will also see the latest news. So what you can do here, if you're in the gallery, you can type tutorial, and then you'll go into this activity. So, yes? Tutorial. So what you can do here is, it's working. Good news. So what you can do, if you don't need some of the components, you can just close them. Feel free to fool around. Nothing to, this is an image. And you can also,
mine is working. If you want to use it,
you know how it works.
I know how it works.
So you can just resize them, close them.
It's a bit slow.
And you can also add more components. So there is the toolbar is down here. You can't see it very well, can you? I think that's better. So this black ribbon is the toolbar where you have the some very, very important buttons. Let's start with the first one. This shows you how many components there are, and you can focus on, in this activity we have 3 components, but if you get lost, for example, if you zoom in like this, you only want to watch the clip, and if you get lost, then you can go back here and focus on the caption component or the text component. Okay, and then you can always zoom to fit. Click on this button to see everything that's included in the activity. Okay, this is a zoomable area, which is very flexible. That's very good. You can add as many components as you wish, but it's a bit dangerous that you might get lost. That's why we have this zoom to fit button that brings everything into place. Then we have this start dialogue button, from where you can open start a new activity, open an existing activity from the gallery, or from an activity URL. As you can see, can you see the URL link on top? See, it's studio.clipflair.net/?activity = tutorial.clipflair. Each activity has its own URL link. This means that you can just take this, send it to someone, and they don't have to go to the gallery or go to the ClipFlair start page or go anywhere. The student just clicks. I will refresh it so that it loads again. And they will just see this part. So if you have comprehensive instructions, the clip, and they don't have to do anything else. All they need is there in this activity.
So if I understand correctly, just checking.
Yeah.
All the editing is done online, within the ClipFlair environment.
You can also do it offline.
Okay. And as to content, can I import content from my local machine?
Yeah.
Or from the web?
Yeah. You're going fast. So, since we talked about offline use, let's see how we can install ClipFlair in our. Actually, if you right-click on the blue area, I like this music. If you right-click on the blue area, you'll see install ClipFlair. You can install it. Actually, I'm going to click because it's installed in this computer.
Yeah, it's my computer.
It's your computer. It's a good thing. So you'll see this one. Instalar ClipFlair Studio en este equipo. Okay. Next, we'll work, after we finish the presentation, we'll work offline. Because when we use wireless network, it might become very slow. It's slow. Yes. Very slow, I know. It's two things, the slow wireless network and the fact that we're all accessing the same stuff.
Sure.
So, I've used it with 30 people, but there was cable connection and it worked fine. There were no buffering problems. But if you just install it, will work offline. Okay? And I'll show you how you can import stuff from your local.
Is this the only place where I can download it?
Yeah, that's the only place.
So I need to have one of the clips opened, and then this comes up.
Yeah, you can actually. Well, This is the studio. So when you go to the studio, let me just show you. If you go to the studio, you see this.
Yeah.
You can just
Yeah. Okay.
close the start screen and go to the blue area, the background. Another important button is this one. We'll use it a lot today. Save activity to file. The things that any changes that you do, they're not saved if you don't click on the save button. If you refresh the page, then you'll get the initial activity again, which is a good thing because you can fool around if you're not scared about breaking anything. You just refresh and it all gets back to its initial state. But if you forget to save your activity, you will not save your subtitles, for example. You can add
And by saving, it gets a unique new URL.
No,
Ooh,
not directly. No,
that's risky, isn't it?
it's not. Because when you save it as a local file, a ClipFlair file. So it's much safer because it's in your your laptop, your PC, and you keep it there. In order for it to acquire a URL link address, you need to upload it on the gallery.
And then you're forced
Okay.
to create a new title. And then you are forced to create something else, another name than the original.
Well, we do have conventions for file names. For example, the file name you save it with must not contain special characters or spaces, etc. Because nothing will happen, nothing really bad. It will just create a very ugly URL. It's going to be one of those long with percentages, and it's going to be ugly. So we have some conventions. For example, you start with the name of the clip, then you add ref if it's a revoicing activity, cap if it's a captioning activity, the level B1, A1, and the language in the end, the language you're learning.
Well, my concern was just that the original file should not be overwritten, and I would also be interested to see a history in the sense of related to this original film, or so if you are making adaptations to an original file that was there. Okay.
For the moment, the activities are not connected in that way. They have metadata, but they're not connected in that way. You can only do it manually and add a nested activity in here or a reference here. You have many possibilities to add text and links within your activity. But we're planning to do that. This is one of our goals. So about the links, so you save it locally, and what happens is you need to upload it on the gallery, but individuals cannot upload anything they want to the gallery. They go through the administrators. There's a group of people who receive the activities through the social network, and then they decide if they are going to upload them on the gallery or not. And we did that because we've seen many things happening when things are too open. Activities that don't work, material that is inappropriate, and since this is a funded project, we want it to be nice and clean and everything working. So you can't upload, but you can you can easily use your activities locally without them becoming publicly available through the gallery. You can also, as I said, you can add captions. It doesn't matter how many captions components you add, they're always linked. Okay, so you cannot have different information in each one, but they can have different appearance. We'll talk about the options later though, so I'll close these windows. You can also add a revoicing component, which is actually the same component as the subtitling one, but with different columns enabled. And you can add a text. Okay, so as for, we were talking about importing before. If you have sorry about that, it has been, I have zipped it. What I'm doing now is showing you how you can import stuff from your PC. You just take a doc that you have with the scripts, instructions, information, etc., and you just throw it in the text component. But you have to be sure that it's drag and drop in the text component. And you can also do that with... Does anybody know what an SRT file is? SRT? The subtitler there? SRT.
SRT, yeah.
Yeah. SRTs are subtitle files.
The most used, no?
Yeah. The most common
Most common.
type of file for subtitles. Has anybody worked with subtitles before? Yes, a little bit. So you know that subtitles are actually have three types of information. The start time, when they have to appear on the video. The end time and the caption itself, the words. So SRT files only include this information, nothing else. So if you need, but in a correct format. So you can also drag and drop an SRT file in the caption component, or I will also add a video. Let's choose another one and put it here. Okay, so now I have the activity I opened before with the same instructions, the same subtitles, which would look quite funny actually with this video, because there's no forest. And there's no dangerous species in the... So it doesn't make sense, but you can always delete the subtitles. You just choose the subtitle you want to delete. And you can create new ones with this button. Add caption at current time. So first you decide the moment you want the subtitle to appear. Usually when the person starts speaking. Not usually, you have to do it like that. Why I'm saying usually? Because not all activities have standard subtitling. Okay? Standard subtitling, you have to start the subtitle when the utterance starts and finish it when the utterance finishes. But in other kinds of interaction between written word and the clip, you might want to have different appearance and disappearance of caption, depending what you want to do. But in this case, let's say it's a film scene, from before sunrise. No, knows it very well. And you can just listen. And add a subtitle when they start speaking. And then the next subtitle, and so on. And then you can either write yourself the captions here. If you're a teacher and an author at the same time, you can either write yourself captions or ask your students to do all this work. It depends on the level of your students and how much you want to involve them. We'll see different kinds of involvement of students with activities. You can also add an image or a map. If you have a specific reference to a place, you can just add a map to enhance the activity. You could also...
This comes up like a subtitle, you show at a particular point, you show a map to help understanding.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. As we saw before, you can have a news component which shows the latest post from this is not necessary in all activities, but if you want your students to be up to date with what happens in the blog, then you can add a news component. These are actually all extra components. The basic ones are clip, text, captions, or invoicing. You can add, this is quite cool actually, you can add a gallery in your... So the gallery is within the activity. And you can tell them, for example, if you are, let's see, I want them to continue with all the activities I've created. Okay, so I filter the activities, and I don't need to send them extra instructions. I just tell them, go to the activity and do what it says. And one of the things it says is continue with these. Well, once you finish this one, continue with these ones.
So you could have a narrative effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you could also have a nested activity. Let me just close them. Of course, you would need to place them correctly so that they can be visible. That's quite clear, isn't it? Or, as I said before, you can resize them. I think that's quite obvious, right? And you can also have a nested activity. What's a nested activity? An activity within an activity. Okay? Which works in the same way as I said before with the gallery. You can tell them once you finish it, you can continue with a nested one, which can have its own clip, its own captions, etc. Right. Let me go back to a presentation and show you. Remember I said before about the continuum of learner involvement in the activity. It can be a very simple one, a fill in the gaps one, very simple instructions, not requiring any subtitling knowledge, any software knowledge, nothing. But the difference between this and a normal fill in the gap exercise is what I what we saw before, that it has a tangible result. So this one, as you see, it has the link is a bit too long, so I converted it into a tiny URL to make it easier to exchange. So what we have here is the clip, the instructions, but I think that the student can understand what they have to do even if they don't read anything. They see subtitles here and gaps. Okay, so in this case, this is for my students of Spanish, and they have specific exams with fill in the gaps exercises, and I can't do anything about that. That's how the exams are. They have to fill in prepositions and verbs. So instead of giving for practicing, because they want fill in the gaps exercises in order to prepare for the specific exam, instead of giving them papers, I gave them this one, and first they have to fill in the gaps without listening. No importa, una vez que vienes verme, se puede completar, ¿no? Y entonces, once they fill in the gaps, then they can listen to the clip and see if their answers are okay. What I'll do, because of the slow internet connection, I'm just going to load a local video, which is exactly the same video, but since it's local, it's going to work much faster. So in this case, you see that it's very simple, very low involvement. If they want to read the instructions, they can. They can also read the objectives that they are going to practice listening comprehension and audiovisual comprehension. And they're going to learn about grammar. Not learn, sorry, they're going to practice grammar, which is quite different. They're going to practice verbs, prepositions, and the use of ser y estar, which is also a tricky part in Spanish learning. Okay. And another activity I wanted to show you, it's an audio description activity that Noah did actually, which raises awareness on accessibility, sorry about the mistake here, issues. Do you know what audio description is? Has anybody not heard about audio description? Audio description is making the film accessible to blind people. So the blind people can go to the cinema. You'll say, what's the point of a blind person going to watch a film? It's actually for social reasons mostly. Of course, they cannot enjoy the film as much as the seeing people can, but they can at least follow it and then talk about the film with their friends, etc. And what it involves, there is a narrator who describes what happens in the film between dialogues. So when people are not speaking, when characters are not speaking, there's this voice that describes what happens. For example, now a tall man enters the room anything that can be seen but not heard. Okay, it's the opposite of captions for the blind, for the deaf. In that case, you don't only have the dialogues, but you also have a description of the noises. You can hear the door knocking, or a big sound, a big noise. Everything is described in captions. The opposite for the blind people is describing during dialogue breaks what happens on screen. So this is one of the things we can ask our learners to do. We can ask them to describe what happens on screen for a blind friend or a visually impaired friend, if you wish. And this, even if they don't have friends, they can imagine how it would be like to have a friend who cannot see and how they could help them. So this raises awareness on accessibility issues. And it also promotes audiovisual literacy. Audiovisual literacy, we'll see before the definition of the terms later on, is understanding an audiovisual text, comprehending fully what happens on screen. Sometimes it takes us a lot of time to understand what we see in films, and not just watch the action, but understand the references of the visual part of the film, not just understand what we're listening with the verbal part. And that requires some skill. And if you have to describe what happens, this promotes your audiovisual skills. Of course, you practice speaking skills, since you have to talk. And let's see this one. So as you see, this clip is also, slow connection, slow. Again, I'll do the trick. And I'll just load the, where is it? There it is. I have it locally too. Oh, before I just wanted to show you that in order to know where this clip comes from, you can go here to the options. See, there is a wrench icon there. Go to the options, and here you see the media source. And the media source, in this case, can you see what it is? It's a gallery. So why are we doing this? Clips are very large files, and they're difficult to send back and forth, and they're also very space consuming. So there's no point in sending your students the clips. It would be very difficult. So we have them uploaded in the gallery, and you can see it from there with a good connection. If there's no good connection, you just load it locally. And you will see now that the media source is empty. This means that it takes it from a local file. It does not take it from a URL. If you don't want to drag and drop the clip, you can just use this little folder here and open it through the... So as you see, this is a presentation of Edinburgh. Lots of action on screen, and again no dialogue. Again, this is an activity that could work for learning any language. As opposed to the previous one with the Almodovar clip, that you need to know Spanish to work with it, either as a mother tongue and subtitle it in English if you're learning English, or as the language you're learning. It has to be one of your two languages. Whereas in this one you only need to understand the instructions, and the instructions are: audio describe this video, explain what is going on to a person with visual impairments, follow these steps, click on different sections already synchronized for you. These are the different sections: the first, the second, the third. And what you have to do is prepare a script. You can use this space, this text component here, to prepare your script. You play and pause and create language, but with a specific prompt, a specific stimulus, which is the clip. And you can choose what kind of information you're going to include in your audio description, because you cannot say everything, you only have limited time. So you have to be able to choose the important information. This is quite a difficult skill, and there are special people who do that kind of job. It's a professional job, that the audio description professional. But in our case, we're not interested in the perfect audio description. We're more interested in the process of producing language. So they can create their, or even write them in here as captions, and then click on the red buttons of each section to record their voice. They actually enjoyed a lot this kind of exercise. The only thing with revoicing is that some students feel reluctant about hearing their own voice, but they need to do that, or at least if they don't want to send it, they need to listen to their own voice. And unfortunately, in the 60s, that was very common to have these labs where people would record their voices and listen again, and repeat, and listen again. I find this is an excellent exercise, but it's very, very boring to do with. But if you do it like that, it becomes very different. It has a point. You don't record to record, you record for your blind friend. So we saw two extremes of kinds of activities that involve very little from the students or much more. And then we'll go to the social part. We'll see it in a moment, which includes anything, all the tools for the community of teachers and learners, all the tools you need to communicate, exchange activities, give feedback for the platform, or you can also suggest material, upload activities. What I was saying before, if you want your activity to acquire its URL, you need to upload it in the social network. We'll see it in a moment. You can also share activities and materials. Let's take a look at it right now. If you go to, even those of you with tablets, you can access the social network. You can just go to ClipFlair.net and click on social. Visit the ClipFlair social network. Have you arrived in this page? Actually, it's important that you do, because I'm going to ask you to register in order to continue with the practical part. Have you entered the social?
It's loading the net.
Okay.
It's like, just
Okay.
Connections.
okay.
So where do we register on the social page?
Yeah, you go. I'm logged in, so you can see it. On the top right corner. So you use these fields for the account registration: a username, a password, and an email. It's very easy. How's it getting on? Very, very slow. Yeah, for the I don't have any tricks for the social part because it can't be used offline. So while it's loading and you're trying to register, I'd like to show you the social part. It's quite straightforward. You can see the community here, and actually it is a great chance for me to show you the partnership. We have partners throughout Europe. The coordinating institution is Pompeu Fabra University from Spain. Pompeu Fabra.
Okay.
Can you see? Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona. And we also have the Computer Technology Institute, which is in Greece. Universitatea Autónoma de Barcelona, Imperial College, Babes Bolyai University from Romania, Universitatea de Deusto, also from Spain, Tallinn University from Estonia, University of Warsaw, Algarve from Portugal, and National University of Ireland. These are the 10 official, let's say, partners. But we also have associate partners, which are always increasing. We have schools, universities. So if you're working in a school and you would like to become an associate partner, please let us know. What's an associate partner? They have all the rights that every other partner has, access to all activities. They can upload their own activities on the gallery. The only thing they don't have is obligations. So, but they also don't have any funding. That's the difference. So if you would like to become an associate partner, feel free. We have blogs, groups, and users. Let me show you the feedback forum I was telling you about. We have a specific section here which is called Suggest Material. So if you would like to upload an activity on the gallery or a video on the ClipFlair gallery, you just go to Suggest Material, to this forum, and you post a message, attach your file. See, there are 3 different sections: ClipFlair activities, video, audio. As you will see here in ClipFlair activities, there are 565 posts, which means that people have been asking things and uploading their activities.
So is this also the case when you have a brand new item with all the files attached that you probably created on your own machine, then you can actually upload them here?
Yeah, you post them here. The administration team has a look at it. If it's inappropriate or if it's wrong, it might be a wrong file. It might be, anything. And then in a few hours you will see it in the gallery.
Yeah, perhaps that's beyond the project, but how do you, is this sustainable? Will there be a volunteer team?
Yeah, okay, it's a very good question too. Thank you. The thing is that the project ends in July, but the people involved are in love with it. It's our baby, so we're not going to let our baby die.
No.
As long as we are okay, of course, we'll do the minimum necessary, which is maintain the server. These are all going to be maintained because this is a requirement by Brussels, by the European agency funding the project, to sustain it for at least 5 years. So the Computer Technology Institute has a holistic view. All the projects they have, they maintain all the servers. They have a basis, an infrastructure for that. And all you need in this case is a couple of people to look, to follow the forum and upload activities. We will try to get more funding, of course, and maybe private funding as well. We will see. We are in the process of creating a business plan, so it might become more, even richer. But we will have the minimum if we're okay, if we're alive.
Okay.
So you can see, for example, here that Agnieszka had attached some activities, and we uploaded them on the gallery.
Sorry I saw you drag and drop when you were working on it. So when uploading, all that stuff goes automatically with. I mean, I don't need to upload these separately.
No.
Okay.
Let me go back to the studio. Do I have any? Okay, let me drag and drop it. You can drag and drop a complete activity. Okay, I have some activities saved on my local laptop. You see the extension .ClipFlair? So let's see one we haven't seen. It's a template for subtitling. Okay? You see that all the components open at the place they are supposed to be. Now, each component can be saved separately through here, through the options. Okay, you see this green disk? You can save it separately to use in another activity. Okay, so you can mix and match components. But when you use this one, this green disk, the one on the black ribbon, okay, you save the whole activity. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Attention though, there is one thing that is not saved in the activity if you use a local media file. If you use a video from your local PC, it will not be saved here. In this case, it has been saved because it's a URL link. But if you save it from your PC, if you drag and drop it from your PC, it will not be saved in the ClipFlair. And why we have done that? Because in that case, we would have huge files. It would be impossible to...
That's why I asked.
Yeah, that's the only case. That's the only thing. In that case, you save the ClipFlair file and the video file and send them. And then the user can just drag and drop the clip on the video. And the good thing is that it will not change. I mean, the size and the color, the format will not change. We'll just import the video in there and the activity is ready. Okay?
So if I want to share my activity with my students and then I don't have it uploaded, I just send them the file.
The ClipFlair file. And if the video is local as well, it's not on the gallery, you have to send the video. You can do it as I have done it here. Look, you can use ClipFlair for that. You don't need to emails, anything, because you cannot send big files with emails. So what you can do is register in the social network here. You can create a group. I have created one for you. It's called This Late 2014. Okay, I have the first message. The first thing you see in a group is the wall. Anybody can write anything on the wall. It's like Facebook wall, etc. So I'm telling you, hello, please go to the discussion board for a discussion and exchange of activities. Here is the discussion board. And in the discussion board, I have created some topics. One topic is activities. If you don't want your students to search around the gallery, if you don't want them to get lost in other places, you can just create a group and give all the instructions. So in this case, I have some topics. One is activities, templates, texts, MP4 files to download. And what else? And the subtitling instructions is the activity I showed you before, this one. This is an activity that contains subtitling instructions. For people who don't know how to subtitle, you have, first of all, some theory on how to create subtitles. That gives you the standards for the correct subtitle duration. The subtitle cannot be shorter than 1 minute or longer than 1 second, I'm sorry. 1 second or longer than 6 seconds. You cannot have more than 42 characters per line, and you cannot have more than 180 words per minute. And of course you don't need to calculate that because the program does it for you. Do you see there on top? You can see characters per line. On the first line I have 30 characters. On the second line I have 35. And words per minute, it calculates. It takes the duration, the program takes the duration, which is 4 minutes, divides it with the characters, the words, and gives us the words per minute. And why do we need these restrictions in subtitles? Subtitle
to read well.
to read well.
To read well. Otherwise, you cannot. It either goes too fast or.
Exactly. And otherwise you only read and do nothing else. And that's actually the most important, the strongest defect of fun subtitle, but is that they don't follow these restrictions followed by professionals, and the only thing you do is read.
That's one of the reasons students always give not to watch films with subtitles. They keep reading all the time, and that's what they say. Especially in this country, where we're used to absolutely everything in Spanish.
Yeah, it's one of the things is being accustomed to something, and the other thing is the way subtitles are done here. My PhD thesis actually was comparing subtitles in Greece, which is a subtitling country, and in Spain, a dubbing country. And it was very obvious that in Spain, in all films I studied, the subtitles were always longer and more subtitles, more words, more things to read. In Greece, it was much more condensed information. But there are reasons behind that too. Why they do it like that there and why they do it like that here. But that's a different story. I might go on for ages about that, so I'll spare you. So the theoretical part goes on. Let's try to condense the information, synchronize the subtitle with the dialogue, use dashes when there are two speakers in the same subtitle, segment the text in readable sense blocks. For example, do not separate the article from the noun and the person from the verb, because it's more readable. It's more readable when subtitles are in sense blocks, complete. If they can finish in a full stop, if every subtitle can finish in a full stop, that's even better. If that's not possible, then at least in sense blocks. And then in this text component, you have the technical instructions, how to use this interface to add subtitles. So first you drag and drop your video. These can work for any video, right? You drag and drop your video here, and you pause the video at the time you wish your subtitle to appear. Click on the button Add Caption Current Time. For example, if I want my subtitle to start here, I add a caption, and the caption is added at second 17, which is exactly when I post the video. There is a default duration of 2 seconds, which you can then change. You can pause it again when they finish, and modify, for example here, and then you can modify the end time using this button, Set Selected Captions End Time. Okay, and now you see that the second 28 is transferred at the end time there. So we have a subtitle with a duration of 10 seconds, which is unacceptable, so we would have to correct it. Now, you may have one question which has to do with the appearance of these columns, the last columns. You see we have start, end, duration, captions, CPL, which is characters per line, and WPM, which is words per minute. In the previous exercises, activities, we saw that there were no such columns at the end. You can modify the kind of information you will see in the captions component through the options, the red, if you click on the red icon. So in this case, all these are possible columns in the caption, which is the start time, the end time, duration, role. If I click on role, I'll see another column here, which could be the person speaking, John. In some activities, we might need not standard subtitling, but captioning for the deaf and hard of hearing. Deaf and hard of hearing need the information of who is speaking. Okay? So you could have this. You could have... we also have right to left orientation. This is for Arabic and Hebrew, because we also, when you click here, see, it becomes right to left, which is necessary, and what we have it per subtitle, because some subtitles could be in one language and others in a different language. You could have different directions depending on the language. You also have characters per second, if you prefer, to words per minute. And if you click, that's quite an important one, if you click on Audiovisual, remember what this does. It shows you the possibility of recording. So within the same activity, you can ask your learners to add captions and record them. You click here and you start speaking. There is also another possibility of comments. You can have comments per subtitle. This is quite useful for feedback. The teacher can give feedback per subtitle. For example, in this one, whatever, or give a reference, or it's quite useful. Column this one. So back to social. Okay, so I prepared for this class with my students, and I have sent you the activities in two ways, both as links, the tutorial and Rosa. You can just click on the link and go and do the activity, or if you don't have good internet access, you can download them and open them through the studio offline. Okay? And some more activities. King Kababa, which is actually quite fun because it's a bit different than the ones we saw. It's about reverse revoicing. You revoice the clip using the language you're learning, not the language, not your own language. And talking about student involvement, this is actually quite demanding, because as you will see in the instructions, you need to watch the clip, study the scenes, notice the use of colors, landscape, settings, body language, facial expressions of the cartoon. And now imagine you're the foreign second language scriptwriter for this clip and write a clip with dialogue which includes at least 3 characters as follows. The narrator, the knight, and King Kababa. As you will see, it's an animation. So it's quite complicated dialogue and quite demanding instructions as well. It also asks the learner to record the narration using different voices for the different characters. Right? So it involves even more participation by the student. And apart from activities, how are we doing for time?
I think you have more, 15 more minutes.
15 minutes. That's great. I've also uploaded there some video files to download, some MP4 files which you can drag and drop on the activities, and some texts. The script, for example, I showed you before that you can drag and drop in the text component. That's all, basically.
Just a question, the video must be MP4 or?
The best format is MP4. It also accepts WMV. But sometimes they're not codified correctly. MP4 is the safest format. Do you have any more questions regarding the studio?
I have just a question. If you upload an activity, is there any restriction in as regards to the clips? For instance,
in what sense?
You use a movie from an original DVD.
Yes, copyright issues.
Yeah.
Yes, copyright issues are our greatest problem. Okay, so we are very sensible to that. We cannot upload complete films on the gallery. We use a so-called burn convention, which lets you use a percentage of a film, like 3% of the totals. That gives you, if it's a 100-minute film, you can use up to 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a lot of time. It's a lot of time. Many things happen, lots of dialogues. So it's more than enough. But we always try to find material under Creative Commons licenses, like King Kababa, like the Big Buck Bunny animation. There are lots of materials and banks. There is lately the British Pate Association has uploaded all these. Remember in the cinemas in the 40s and the 50s, they had these short news reels before the film. And these are all available now, you can use them freely. It's quite risky, and we're very, very careful not to break any copyright rules. Before I finish, I also wanted to talk to you about the prompts and the framework we use to talk about from skills and to skills. As I said, the prompt is a stimulation, the input. It can be teacher-driven or in the activity. The learners write, speak, and produce audiovisual text responding to prompts. We can extend the concept of from to mean involves doing in pursuit of a final goal. In order to revoice, you need to watch, right? So it's from watching to audiovisual speaking. X to Y, an activity provides X as a prompt for a learner to produce Y. X can be one of the 4 skills and Y too. And as for the languages, we use this terminology which has been quite useful for us. L0 is the language of the instructions. It could be L1 or L2, but an activity may be introduced or described in any number of languages. For example, the same intralingual activity for learning Polish can be used for speakers of different languages. L1 is a learner's language, the mother tongue, or a language a learner knows well, enough to work from. L2 is the language being learned, and L3 are other languages that might appear in the activity, either in the clip or in any text. As for the multilingual combinations, as I said before, we have intralingual, activity developed from and carried out to one language only. Interlingual, from is from one language into a different language. It can be standard or reverse. As you can see here, intralingual is from L2 to L2. Interlingual can be from your mother tongue to the language you're learning, or vice versa. And we can have different language combinations. Multilingual scenarios and combinations which are not strict L1 to L2 or to L2 to L1, either because there is another language in the clip or it is otherwise multilingual.
Is there a question?
Yeah.
Is there an option to actually technically, a technical option to switch the language? So in other words, if I have the original product and I want Romanian subtitling or rather French, is that an option?
Automatically.
Yeah, well, a button somewhere. A button.
A button somewhere, no. You have to... That would require automatic translation, for example.
No. I mean prepared by authors, but only in viewing mode an option that the user can choose.
I see what you mean.
But you have multilingual websites.
Oh, yes, that's possible. That's possible. We can have, for example, the instructions in different languages, and you can just click. We haven't done that yet, but you can just click on the ones on the text, the text component of the language you want.
Yeah, that's for the instruction that goes with that clip, right?
Yeah.
What I mean is that the subtitles with that clip are also in various, can be prepared in various languages.
Yeah, that's not possible.
Okay.
Because the way the platform is developed, the captions components are linked. If we unlink them, then it might be possible. But then we would have to figure a way of knowing which ones to show on the video.
Okay, so
that would complicate things.
Yes, so I would have to redo the whole thing.
I think that the easiest thing would be to have it as a different activity. The same file multiplied 10 times.
Right.
And this is the most, because we have tried not to make it too complicated.
Sure.
The platform could too complicated because it's already complicated and we will get lost. The simpler, the better. So the answer to your question, the technical part is not a button, but from the beginning, before you open this activity, click. Or you can have a gallery component with its versions in different languages, and you can see it's possible to see it in another language and click there and see it. That would be a solution. Okay. And that's one of the core of our conceptual framework, is the types of learner response. Why do we need that? We need this to open up horizons of possibilities. ClipFlair is not about only subtitling and dubbing. You can do all kinds of different things. You can ask your learners to repeat verbatim, essentially the same message in the same words, a faithful lexicosemantic rendering, paraphrase or translation. Literal translation is a kind of repeat under this framework. You can ask them to rephrase a noticeable deliberate change of wording, a loose paraphrase, a free rendering or account, a report, a summary, free translation. These are a different kind of response. But you could also ask learners to react or to respond. It's a new communicative contribution, prompted or elicited by a previous one. For example, you could have a clip with an interview, and you have all the questions, but the answers are empty. So the student would be required to revoice answers to these questions. This would be a kind of react, responding. No translation, no standard subtitling or dubbing. It's a different kind of... But ClipFlair can be used for that. So, all the combinations between combinations of languages and the kinds of response can give us a wide variety of possible activities. As for the audiovisual skills you were so interested in, we have the skill of watching, as I said before, interpreting skillful audiovisual text as a whole, single, complex semiotic communication act to find meaning and sense from a combination of verbal and non-verbal signs. It includes interpreting non-verbal pictures, icons, symbols, metaphors, cultural elements, etc., and any combination of verbal and non-verbal textual terms. This thing is not covered within the 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, speaking, which has been the traditional one. And we feel that these skills should be included in the kinds of skills language learners have. Audiovisual listening is understanding linguistic oral comprehension with the combined effect of other elements of the audiovisual text. It's enhanced listening. Audiovisual reading is linguistic written comprehension with the combined effect of other elements of the audiovisual text. Not just reading the subtitles, but reading according to the requirements of the screen, speed, focus, etc. Audiovisual speaking is basically revoicing. Adapt to speed, voice quality, performance, character portrayal, including a variety of prompts such as improvising, reading from a script, repeating, mimicking, etc. This is a high-level skill, yes.
I feel that this one, related to speaking, I think that audio description is a very motivating tool for developing oral skills. Do you usually use that audio description with your students for improving oral skills? And in that case, how do you evaluate that? Because as I see here, do you evaluate the pronunciation, the use of vocabulary for describing what they are saying in that moment? How do you evaluate your students?
By using different standards. One of them is pronunciation. One is the choice, because audio description is a specific task that requires the choice of what to describe. Of course, there's grammar and syntax, different, and they have each element has a different weight in the final mark. Intonation.
But is it related to the visual? Say in that moment, for example, if they are describing a building and
yes, absolutely.
the connection.
Absolutely. If the choice of information is correct, because if they choose, they have limited time. So if they choose things that are not so important for understanding the audiovisual text as a whole, then the grade is a bit lower.
Yeah.
Audiovisual writing is effective script writing or captioning in its various forms, a specific component of full audiovisual production skills. It includes storyboard skills, visual narrative skills involving the use of the camera. And of course the maximum of audiovisual production, which includes filmmaking, film directing in the context of education, students and learners being able to produce video, films and clips to a certain standard, displaying a combination of other semiotic and communicative, linguistic and non-linguistic technical and artistic skills. ClipFlair is not for this, for producing films, but within we needed it to complete the conceptual framework. So these are the combinations to multiply the possibilities. From reading to speaking, you can repeat, read aloud, also interlingual sight translation. You can rephrase, oral report or summary. You can react, answer, analyze, criticize, agree. You can, within listen to speak, X to Y combination, you can repeat, intralingual or interlingual, more or less verbatim, traditional listening, repeat exercise, rephrase, react. For example, a dialogue would involve minimum 2 instances of listen to speak by 2 people to each other, as I said before.
It's already time.
It's time? Okay, I've already shown you. I also wanted to ask you if you go home where you have a better connection, if you go to social.clipflair.net, you will find a short questionnaire about the studio, with your opinion about how it works, and once you've seen it, if you could please... do I have 1 more minute?
Yes, sure.
1 more minute.
2 or 3.
Because I wanted to show you the learner feedback we got. Since April 2013 we've used ClipFlair. We've had about 1,000 users. It might already be 1,000 people who have used ClipFlair. And this is what they feel about ClipFlair, about the activity they used. The higher these 2 things are, the better. So we're happy when we have... If it's an interesting activity, yes, very much so.
So users here is learners?
Yes, learners, yes. If it's fun, we see very little, not at all. Okay? So we're happy as long as we have yes and very much so. Sorry. As I said, interesting, fun and useful for language learning. If the activities was easy, if it had clear instructions, if they would like to do more activities like the one they did. And about the studio, if it is user-friendly, if the interface is attractive, and if they enjoyed ClipFlair on the whole, we are very, very happy with the results. And as for the learners, we have, most of them are female, language learners tend to be so. More than 18-year-olds, because most of them are university students with their school, just study is completed. We see that there is no trend in how much video multimedia they have used as language students before doing any ClipFlair activities. Some have, some haven't at all. But most of them like working with clips and audiovisual material. You see 4 and 5 they like it a lot. And they like working with computers. We asked these questions because we wanted to make sure that if they don't like ClipFlair, it's not because they don't like computers, it's because they don't like ClipFlair, okay? So we see that they like working with computers. And I also would like to finish by inviting you to the ClipFlair conference, which is taking place in Barcelona.
We have information in the back.
You have information in the back, very good. On the 18th and 19th of June, in the ClipFlair website, you will see information about the conference 2014. So I'll be very happy to see you there. And if you have more questions, I think we have to go now, but I'm going to be here today, tomorrow. Feel free to come and I can answer your questions or anything you might think relevant to ClipFlair. Thank you very much.